okay? So today's tip talks about the right or front side versus wrong back side of crochet. And it's kind of funny that we even use those terms, right side, wrong side. So I'm here to talk about both those sides, why they matter and when they matter. Because in all honesty, sometimes they're going to matter and sometimes they don't matter. So let's start with projects that are worked in joined rounds from the center out. Okay, now your pattern is always going to tell you which side is the right side of the fabric and which side is the wrong side, especially if there is a clear difference. But if you're just working in center out joined rounds, the right side of the stitches are always going to determine what the right side of the fabric is. So this center out joined round right here has 1, 2, 3 rounds. And what we can see right here is that all this fabric looks the same, right? So each one of these stitches are all facing the same direction. If we turn it over, all of this looks the same. So all of these stitches are all facing the same direction and they all look the same, okay? So already we can see a very clear difference. Now the difference between right side and wrong side, or front side and back side of your stitches in your fabric, is what was facing you as you were working. Now, this is the right or front side of these stitches, meaning as these stitches were being created, this is the side that was facing me, okay? So no matter if you're right-handed or left-handed, your stitches are going to look this way as you're creating them. That means this is the front of the stitches. So if this is the front, this is going to be the back. Now, a lot of people, or some people, maybe 9% of people go, well, I like the wrong side or the back side better. I just think that looks better. You do you. Whatever you think looks best and it's for you and your personal use, you do whatever makes your heart whole and happy. But when you're following a pattern and you're looking to produce a certain kind of fabric, or you're looking to better count your stitches, count what you're doing, count your rows, and really differentiate, just know that while you're creating your stitches, whatever you're creating that's facing you, that's the front side. And as you're creating those stitches, whatever behind that, that's the back side, okay? All right, so that's when you're working in joined rounds. Now let's talk about rows, because there's a few different kinds of rows, all right? So I have a few examples here of things worked in rows and in the round. Now, first thing, let's look at this, this square shape, right? But I did work it end to end just to kind of work some increases and decreases. So that's why it's end to end, start to finish, and it's worked in this, in this way. Now, I'm showing you this because this is reversible fabric. And what I mean by that is it looks the same from this side as it does this side. So really, unless your pattern is going to tell you otherwise, this can be right side or wrong side. This can be right side or wrong side. Now that's kind of typical in rows, especially if there really is no difference between one side and the other. For example, this is all double crochet stitches worked throughout. And because we have alternating, front sides of stitches showing and back sides of stitches showing, and we have that replicated on one side versus the other, it's reversible. Now that's a really simplistic example, but let me show you another example. This is basket weave crochet, okay? So arguably basket weave crochet looks the same, on this side as it does on this side, as it does as if I flip it this way, as it does as if I flip it this way. So sometimes it can go in any direction. So if it looks the same on either side, it can be just as reversible as that, okay? So that's a really good indication for right side, wrong side. Maybe I need to know right side, wrong side just whenever I'm counting my stitches, whenever I'm counting my rows. I understand there is a difference, but that's about it. Okay, so you might be working rows and maybe it doesn't look exactly the same size on one side as it does on the other. Now let's take a peek at what we mean by that exactly. Now let's take a peek at this fabric here. Let me just kind of show you a little square area, okay? We see that there are double crochet stitches worked in one space, and then right above that there's kind of a little cross going on, okay? So we can really clearly see this pattern on a small scale and how those stitches create an even larger pattern fabric, all right? So that's one side of this fabric that was created here. let's turn it over and look at the other side. Here, we can see those double crochet stitches and we can still see that X. But the very first thing that we notice is that we're looking at the back side or the wrong side of these double crochet stitches. Now again, you may go, I think it looks better on that side. It really depends on what you're making. This might just be an Afghan, and if it is, well, you can use it. It's going to be warm on either side. It's absolutely fine. There is no, there's no right way to put an Afghan on, right? But if this is going to be parts of something larger, maybe you're making 20 of these and you're seaming them together to make an Afghan. Well, then you need to really determine that all of the wrong sides are facing one way and all of the right sides are facing one way. So that's why it's important to really see that, all of these double crochet stitches, this is the back side. So I want to make sure that all 20 of them that I'm making all have the back side facing. I like to, and this is a great time to bring up this rule because the last example really has the rule. What has the most real estate? And when I say that, I say, really depending on whatever stitch you're using, depending on the fabric that it creates, what can you really see the most of? And for me, I see the most of these double crochet stitches that are placed together. Each one of these kind of, shells that are popping out, that has the most real estate to me. So in my eye, whenever these double crochet stitches were created, whatever the front side of those were, I want that side to be facing. I want that side to be the right side. And here you can see on the back side, it's equally true. All of these double crochets have the most real estate. And to my eye, they're all facing the back side of the wrong side. So that's the side I want away from me. For pictures, for joining, for, just to have on the outside, maybe it's a tote bag or something like that. That's what my eye wants to see. Okay, now let's look at something a little bit more sporadic. Now, this pattern has a lot more going on. There are a lot more row repeats than there are on this one. This is a very simple 2-row repeat. We have the same 2 things happening. This one is much more complicated to where there are a lot more rows that create a broader picture here. So you might be looking at this and going, does it really matter? Again, I always look for what has the most real estate. What does your eye see more of? And for me, my eye sees more of these double crochet stitches right here, kind of creating that shell focal point. But I also see these solid rows of double crochets. So really my eye goes to both of those. So pick a focal point and really pick what stands out to you more. What are you going to see more of? So you can see I have a border on this, and I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But I did want to show you that this is one side with this particular fabric. And again, these are the focal points that I see that I think that's going to help me to determine what's going to be the front side and what's going to be the back side. And again, because that is because this is worked in rows and rows alternate. So I have a very clear back side, front side going on. Okay, so this still can be reversible, but if you have to choose because you're putting a border or because you're seaming multiple pieces together, it's going to matter. All right, let's flip it around. And here we can see, all right, here are those double crochet stitches, and now I do see this is the back side, right? I can see that this is the non-facing side, the back side of this long row of double crochet. And then I see that these shells right here, all of these double crochets together, those are all facing front, okay? So this is the right side. So I see wrong side, right side, wrong side, right side, wrong side. Well, whenever I created this, I determined myself, because, really you can be your best critic on what looks good and what doesn't. I determined that I wanted these long rows of double crochets to be the back side. I thought that made the most sense. And the reason I needed to choose which side was right side, which side was wrong side, is I did want a border. So that border is going to be worked in joined rounds, meaning it's all going to be facing one way, whichever way I start. So I decided that these double crochet long rows, that was going to be the front side or the facing side. So I made sure that those were facing on the front side so that I can attach my border. And now my border, all of those stitches are all facing front side, just like those rows. All right, everyone, so those are a few tips about right side, wrong side, when it matters, when it doesn't. And I would love to hear what you guys think. If you guys have a preference, wrong side, right side, depending on stitch or depending on fabric, or if you have anything that you want to share with us on this subject, just share it in the comments, all right? Okay, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the American Crochet Association, and we'll see you next time. Peace.